He wondered if they were still following him, fear seeping into his skin like hot rain. Ligon felt the August heat slap the back of his neck. His water canteen was almost empty, and the bread that he purchased from a local trading market was nearly gone, thanks to his salivating tongue. Though his mentor Eli had suggested he follow his old tracker that mapped out the underground routes to Center Point Compound, Ligon began to grow skeptical of the tracker's accuracy. Nonetheless, he had no other options. Nikita was still in the compound's claws, and Ligon knew time was escaping him. He hadn't wanted this life. He longed at times for his comfortable job as a top city accountant, checking documents of fallacy, going home and eating a Stouffer's mac and cheese dinner that he was able to salvage when the 24/24th hour purge hit. But then Eli had to waltz into his tech-driven apartment and destroy all the sensory tracers the government implanted and convey to him the urgency of the times. The urgency of the times being that Eli was gathering an army and he needed Ligon as a key player. Ligon placidly felt the singed charcoal number 72749 atop his wrist's vein. Not knowing his father or mother, Ligon grew up in a special youth development orphanage for government combat, training them daily in fighting, weaponry, and strategic geographical knowledge. Yet even as he rose to the top ranking within his skill level, he began to question the government's metric system of power. 72749 was merely a number to Ligon, but was currency to others within his rank. Never tell them that, Ligon's scrawny, bug-eyed friend Marshall retorted one day, as Ligon expressed his doubt of the organization's motives. Marshall was right, though a few actually considered his words. Ligon knew of Marshall from a young age, and in some ways Ligon saw himself as Marshall's protector, an older brother even. Anyone of close ties with Ligon were left vulnerable to the high-rate leaders who coiled their snaking power to retrieve and detain. Marshall now being one of them, Ligon felt his stomach churn, thinking of what was to be endured within these facilities. Many had spoken of the Center Point compound, its cement walls and electric fencing entrenched around barren property. It was initially meant to be a program for people with psychological issues and trauma, but those who escaped the facility told of the program's testing done on patients. Eli ran dry, cracked fingers through mangled hair, combing back memories he had just days ago. And there was Nikita. She was not what he expected, seeming so frail and papery, but he was quite wrong. Seeing her within his ranking class, her lean arms and cutting jaw, bright green eyes and long wavering hair, a paradoxical masterpiece. She was secure and yet freely spoke of her fears. She was brilliantly stern and yet could laugh at her own inability. She was stunning and yet never presumptuously vain. He loved her. Was she ever to know? But she did know, though he tried to resiliently remain unexposed in his thinking, his thoughts of her were still there. So here Ligon sat, in a parking garage that used to actually hold cars, but now just held out its arms to those planting their constructed tents for a few days, or bounty hunters that sought life for a life. Those, Ligon thought to himself, I must surely avoid. Ligon clicked on his wave transporter, hoping Eli would hear the noise and pick up. Nothing. Ligon felt his chest tighten, air-sucking lungs feeling as if they had been pressed under miles of water. Fear seemed to be his closest companion, folding its arms over Ligon's languishing shoulders. He sighed and slumped against a wall that had a large drawing of the National Power of Peace flag with a red cross across it. He could hear coyotes and stray dogs fighting in the distance. While birds continued chatting in various tones, he would have to wait till nightfall to hear the Center Point compound. Ligon arched his neck, eyes following the endless cracks on the concrete ceiling that seemed to portray windows of light. Languid arms spilling at his sides, he could feel the heat dissipate with evening's gown layering the old, decrepit city. Remember, Eli insisted, handing Ligon his bag before he started traveling to the Capitol Hill sector, home of the CPC. Eli had a way of saying things that, if spoken by anyone else, would seem outrageous to the common man. His eyes held an entire world of wisdom, piercing to the heart when directing their gaze, and his wide white beard shone with a sense of pride. Though his arms held a firm shape, cut with sharp definition, his face held lines that had seen more than one might want to bear. His shoulders were fixed broadly upon his tall nature, hair resting directly above attentive ears. Ligon could never guess his age, though he always would teeter looming numbers through his head. Eli continued, "You must put the chip in the outside slot. It is hidden in the back entrance of the compound building. It requires a code that you will find engraved in the chip's stainless steel covering. Once you have put the chip in the slot, twist it to the right. It should give you 30 seconds to open the door. Good luck." Good luck? Ligon thought to himself. Luck was not the tactic he was aiming for.